The Bandicoot has proven to be a strong brand. The Crash-Bandicoot series sits among the best-selling PlayStation games, among the likes of Oddworld Abe's Odyssey and Final Fantasy VII. But that's to say nothing of the sales performance of Crash-Bandicoot-TREE-Wrapped, also known as Crash 3. The plot continues from the second game. The true ending of Crash 2 involves the destruction of Cortex's space station. Debris of the wreck crashes into an ancient tomb back on Earth.
Free at last.
Releasing something sinister that was sealed inside.
Uka is free. No, it cannot be. Evil.
It's revealed to us that this being is Aku Aku's evil brother, Uka, who was in fact Dr. Cortex's superior across the past 2 games.
Inside my temple prison, I sent you simple instructions to follow, but you lost the gems, you lost the crystals, and I have lost my patience!
As Cortex was unable to obtain the crystals or gems from across the planet, Uka recruits Dr. Nefarious Tropy to build a time machine known as the Time Twister to obtain the crystals and gems from across time and space.
And this time the great Uka will make sure that you do it right!
A similar scenario to Crash 2, but now Uka and Cortex have the means to take the power they need for themselves, rather than having to deceive Crash. Cortex already has the crystals and gems. Now Crash and Coco are out to rewrite that history. 5 levels, boss battle, multiplied by 5, handful of secret levels, repeat the process until Cortex is dead. We have a slightly higher level count in Crash 3, though half of these levels aren't traditional platforming levels. I call them spin-off levels. I will get to that later. The gameplay is identical to Crash 2, control scheme and all. It's still a linear 3D platformer. Same character model and animation for Crash, a few new idols, and some new unlockable moves for Crash. A notable addition is that Coco is now a playable character in Crash 3. The Crash and Coco are assigned to each level. You can't pick and choose. Coco doesn't appear in any of the traditional platforming levels. Those spin-off levels, just bear with me folks. The crystal and box gems, gem routes and the skull routes all work the same way as in Crash 2. There are 2 secret warps that can be found across all of the levels. The HUD has a small addition, but it's far more useful than you may be led to believe. The box counter now shows the total amount of boxes in the level and how many you've broken so far, which solves an issue with the previous game. Now we know if we're missing anything before reaching the end of the level. We can also deduce that a large amount of missing boxes could be hinting at a hidden area somewhere in the level. Does the game tell you these areas exist? By no means, but we're given clues that there's more to these levels than meets the eye. The original Crash Bandicoot had a lot more hurdles involved for the player to comprehend this for the first time, and it seems that Naughty Dog had figured out how to convey this properly with Crash Bandicoot Warped. Though backtracking has not been removed entirely, the level Future Frenzy is a glaring example of that. It's nowhere near as difficult as Crash 2's Piston It Away, but it still feels unnatural and tedious. Another small adjustment for the best is that you'll collect 2 Wumpa Fruit per bounce from these bouncy crates, giving you a potential 10 Wumpa Fruit twice as fast than before. With new enemies and obstacles to overcome, new death animations follow suit, and they're just as amusing as before. Those unlockable moves for Crash I mentioned, you'll unlock these by defeating each of the bosses. Some are more useful than others. The Super Body Slam, what does it do? It gives your Body Slam a shockwave. That's it, really. It's certainly the least noteworthy throughout the game. It's just as case-sensitive as the Fruit Bazooka. Any crates out of reach or enemies you don't feel like weaving past? Just pull out the bazooka and take them out. The remaining power-ups feel more useful since they increase Crash's platforming capabilities. The double jump can extend the vertical reach of your jumps. The tornado spin allows you to extend the duration of Crash's spin attack. It doubles as a glide feature for Crash to gain significant airtime without killing your forward momentum with the double jump. The warp room and save feature returns from Crash 2. Instead of a circular room with doorways to levels, you step onto numbered buttons to reconfigure the Time Twister. The level name and contents are displayed through the HUD. You have the crystal, gems, and whatever this is. Having to step on these buttons for each level and refresh the HUD each time is a lot less intuitive than what we got in Crash 2. You can see what they were thinking though, that you're manipulating the time twister to take you to that level by pressing these buttons, but in my opinion we could have benefited from a combination of the Crash 2 and Crash 3's warp rooms. Enough of the hypothetical, back to the facts. You'll need to revisit each level to get these things. At the start of each level, you'll now find these stopwatches. Pick it up and you'll start a timer. A portion of the crates in a level will be replaced with these yellow number crates. Everything else is empty. As you break these number crates, the timer will be paused for that amount of seconds. Otherwise, just do what you normally do, but do it fast. There are 3 tiers of Relic you can acquire based on your performance. Death during time trial mode won't eat into your life count, so you can experiment all you like in this mode. So as you can see, this isn't a normal time attack. It's not quite as simple, but it's certainly a fun challenge for speedrunners. I see the time trial as a very welcome addition to the series. They even adjusted the amount of Aku masks you can pick up. So if you're careful enough to avoid taking hits, you're rewarded by blitzing through a large portion of the level. For completion, the game requires you to obtain any kind of relic from each level. Sometimes, Crash and Coco are traversing the land with the use of vehicles, resulting in a selection of levels feeling very different from one another. These are those spin-off levels I was talking about. Honestly, it's a bit of a mixed bag, and there's a lot of them too. Not including the boss battles, they make up half of the game's level count. Coco rides a tiger cub along the Wall of China. Your control is much better this time around thanks to the absence of ice. The jet ski levels are quite fun to play, but the scuba diving prohibits Crash's agency of movement, unfortunately going hand in hand with most platformer water levels. The control is fine, the difficulty is fine, but you start to notice that this variety is too loud! Above all, each one of these spin-off levels are repeated at least once each. The soundtrack has diverted further from the ambient tracks, and still continues to emphasize strong melodies for each level. The theming of each track was important due to the featured environment switching much more drastically than before. They're still as catchy as ever, even on most of the spin-off levels. Well, the plane level? Probably one of the weaker tracks. How do you even compose a track knowing that you've also got machine gun fire playing throughout the entirety of the level? Let's talk visuals. With the whole jumping across time and space thing going on, this presents the opportunity for more varied level themes, including the construction of the Great Wall of China, medieval, the Jurassic period, a far-off future, and pirate times. The colour palette is astounding, and not to mention, it still looks sharp thanks to the textures sticking with the cartoon aesthetic through and through. The character models are detailed enough to resemble their original artwork. Naughty Dog's continued demonstration of being very capable of working with the system's constraints. Easily one of the best looking games on the system. Naughty Dog don't mind showing off their facial animation either, with these boss interventions with the bandicoots.
Oh look, I have a mask helping me too. We will find out which one is more powerful soon enough.
The lights out level returns, but just like in Crash 2, they reused 2 existing level themes, as well as their associated music track. Would you like to know how many levels shared a theme, but had a different music track? A measly 1 level. The original Crash Bandicoot would have the edge in that regard. On the subject of recycling resources, the blemishes of Crash Bandicoot-3's short development time will become evident. All of these spin-off levels being the big red card. They're enjoyable for the most part, but I would like to see a bit of a tighter threshold in future installments, or at least change up the gameplay more often. Now those boss battles have been given some much needed attention, meaning they're not pathetic.
Now you're on my time, you little skunk! Give me the crystals!
Tiny Tiger will chase you much faster, then instead of taking a hit and attempting the same tactics, Tiny retreats and releases a barrage of lions. Another new character is the dingo crossed with a crocodile, aptly named Dingodile.
Right, now you've gone and done it. Them crystals are mine.
Also, he's armed with a flamethrower. Dingodile is one of the smartest bosses throughout the entire Crash franchise. In this boss battle, he'll actually anticipate a change of direction, so you need to try and psych him out yourself. They're not particularly difficult, but at least feel more like an actual threat. You know, what a boss battle should feel like? Cortex is probably the easiest boss in the game. But this isn't the end, since defeating Dr. Cortex gives us one final power-up, the Crash Dash. Crash can now run much faster, giving him greater potential in the time trial modes. Collecting relics will unlock levels within the 6th warp room, which contains 3 standalone levels and 2 alternate entrances to previous levels. Crash 3 maintains a steady frame rate. From my experience, it never really drops so much as it will freeze for a brief moment if you're sprinting in the warp room and during time trials. Yes, you can move too fast during time trials. Now, let's break out the bar chart. Also, before we start, I may have been underselling Crash 2, so let's just give that score a little bit of a boost.
Now, that's more like it.
Crash-Bandicoot-Warped overcomes Crash 2's shortcomings and boosting the replayability significantly, not to mention somehow looking even better than Crash 2. I still have 12 games to dig through if I ever want to move on to something else. The next game in the Crash Bandicoot series was a spin-off, but I'll address that in the next Fran-Dev episode where I explore Crash Team Racing. Hope you all enjoyed the Crash Warped Fran-Dev. I think Crash Bandicoot Warped may be one of my favourite games ever. I don't have like a top 10 list or anything, but it may be up there somewhere. What else? The Ape Escape design section is turning out far different than I anticipated, but you'll have to see for yourself. With apes escaping in mind, I'll catch you all next time.